World's richest 1% cause double CO2 emissions of poorest 50%, says Oxfam.
Here's a summary of the article.
Carbon dioxide emissions rose by 60% over the 25-year period, but the increase in emissions from the richest 1% was 3 times greater than the increase in emissions from the poorest half. Such a concentration of carbon emissions in the hands of the rich means that despite taking the world to the brink of climate catastrophe, through burning fossil fuels, we have still failed to improve the lives of billions, said Tim Gore, head of policy, advocacy and research at Oxfam International. The richest 10% of the global population, comprising about 630 million people, were responsible for about 52% of global emissions over the 25-year period, the study showed. Carbon dioxide emissions accumulate in the atmosphere, causing heating, and temperature rises of more than 1.5 C above pre-industrial levels would cause widespread harm to natural systems. In the next decade, the carbon emissions of the world's richest 10% would be enough to raise levels above the point likely to increase temperatures by 1.5 C, even if the whole of the rest of the world cut their emissions to zero immediately, according to Monday's report. While the world moves towards renewable energy and phases out fossil fuels, any emissions that continue to be necessary during the transition would be better used in trying to improve poor people's access to basic amenities. While the coronavirus crisis caused a temporary dip in emissions, the overall impact on the carbon budget is likely to be negligible, according to Gore, as emissions have rebounded after lockdowns around the world.
This post received a score of 38,000, with an upvote ratio of 91%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
For anyone wondering, I'm disabled and unemployed and I'm in the top 10%. Really puts that value into perspective. The anti-1% crowd, realistically, are the 1%.
Greater than the anti-1% crowd, realistically, are the 1%. From a global perspective, yes. That's just saying that countries like United States are one of the greatest contributors to carbon emissions per capita, therefore a greater responsibility to act. No doubt even the wealthiest 1% within the U.S. itself are contributing more than their own share to emission levels.
Median household income in the United States is $60,000, so over half of U.S. households are outside of that global 1%.
Of course they are. There are 8 billion people in the world. 1% of that is 80 million. There are 330 million people in the U.S., so no more than 1/3 of them could possibly be in the top 1% globally. What's your point?
Lol. Good point. We can't everyone in the US be in the top 1% because the top 1% is 80 million people. That math checks out and I had never thought about that before.
If carbon is a problem, why can't they put a price on it? With the money we can plant tree, can't we? Okay, plane tickets will cost more, but I don't see any alternative.
Australia tried. And the government that did it got booted out in a landslide. The Murdoch media was talking about it as a carbon tax that hurts business owners and ran the hit piece 24/7.
Is the income referenced household? Plenty of middle-class, double-income households in the U.S. can hit that $100,000 mark. Edit: I may have overstated how many double-income households within the middle class hit over $100,000.
This is part of the point. Richer people on the world scale cause vastly more CO2 emissions than poorer people. The average lifestyle in richer countries like the U.S. emits much more CO2 than the average lifestyle in a poorer county.
The scary thing is that when you account for government activity, the numbers for the U.S. become even more staggering. U.S. military is a bigger polluter than more than 100 countries combined.
You are probably in the 1% if you live in a Western country and own a house reasonably close to the city. It's not a particularly exclusive club. And the top 10% includes pretty much everyone in America and the West.
I'm curious what the carbon footprint is of the top 0.1% and the top 0.01%. You know, folks who have private jets and helicopters to pick up their friends and go to Europe for the weekend, with massive yachts with huge diesel motors, and tens of mansions and estates that are probably staffed round the clock. There's a chance their numbers are putting their thumb on the scale by being grouped in the top 10% in this scenario.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.